If your data isn't connected, your dealership isn't operating at full speed. Curator brings all your dealership data together to drive better leads, better conversations, and better results. Visit goobagoo.com/curator to learn more.
Welcome to Daily Drive for Wednesday, February 4th, 2026. I'm Kellen Walker, coming to you from the NADA show floor in Las Vegas. Today on the show, J.D. Power forecasts dealer profits will drop 12% this year. One venture capitalist predicts Chinese automakers will enter the U.S. this year through joint ventures. And NADA backs efforts to keep Chinese brands out of the market. Plus, three-time NASCAR champion Joey Logano talks about his partnership in a Ford dealership.
At this point, I want to take advantage of the platform that I have and be able to grow and learn while I'm still racing.
Let's run through all the news you need to know to keep up in the auto industry. J.D. Power expects U.S. dealer profits to drop 12% this year to $25.4 billion. That's down $28.9 billion in 2025. Thomas King is president of Automotive and OEM Solutions at J.D. Power. He says profitability remains strong despite the decline.
We do expect a little bit of contraction on per unit profitability. So obviously, bad news that it's declining, but context, it's still a very robust number.
King was speaking at the J.D. Power Auto Forum here in Las Vegas ahead of the NADA show. J.D. Power projects U.S. flat sales at 16.3 million vehicles this year, with average incentives rising to $3,500 per vehicle. King says higher cost, lower trade equity, and subprime credit availability are key headwinds, though lower interest rates and higher lease returns could help offset those challenges. At least one venture capitalist predicts that Chinese automakers will enter the U.S. market this year through joint ventures with legacy automakers. Steve Greenfield of Automotive Ventures spoke Tuesday at the American Financial Services Association Vehicle Finance Conference here in Las Vegas. He said these deals would include U.S. plants and workers. The key benefit? Manufacturing know-how.
I think what they'll do is they'll reverse the strategy they had with U.S. automakers 20 years ago. Allow them in. They have to build U.S. factories employing U.S. employees. Do it only through JVs with legacy automakers. And share the IP, because they have figured out how to build cars faster and cheaper. That intellectual property needs to be shared back to legacy automakers.
Greenfield said Chinese brands would likely use dealers and need a local captive finance partner. Meanwhile, NADA is backing efforts to keep Chinese automakers out of the U.S. market. CEO Mike Stanton says 95% of NADA's board agrees with the stance.
We simply think it's bad for dealers first, bad for our industry, bad for consumers, and most importantly, bad for our country.
Stanton was speaking at Hague Partners' Maximizing Value Conference and made similar comments at a number of other events Tuesday ahead of the NADA show. The group's top priority remains fighting direct-to-consumer sales from companies like Scout Motors, with ongoing legal battles already underway in Florida, California, and Colorado. And those are today's headlines. You can find more details on all those stories at autonews.com. Dealer Make meetings are underway here at the NADA show in Las Vegas. It's where automakers share future product plans and other info with retailers and field questions. At Nissan's meeting on Tuesday, the automaker told dealers that it's targeting 1 million U.S. sales by 2027. How realistic is that? Urvash Kakaria is Atlanta Bureau Chief for Automotive News. He joins me now to talk about it. Urvash, welcome back to Daily Drive.
Thanks for having me, Kel.
So, Urvash, Nissan is aiming for 1 million sales by the end of 2027. How realistic is that goal, and what would it take to get there?
Yeah, it's definitely a challenge for Nissan, not just because of its own, internal operational problems, but more importantly, because of the macroeconomic trends. So you've got the tariffs hanging like the sword of Damocles over the brand. That's definitely, affecting their ability to drive volume. Even though they are ramping up U.S. production, they are trying to get about 65% of U.S. sales produced in the U.S. So that'll give them some tariff mitigation. But other than that, 26 and 27 is going to be extremely competitive. All brands are focusing on North America as they're struggling in China and even in Europe. So Nissan will really have to nail the execution. At the same time, they are, financially struggling. They are deep in a financial hole. And so they have to do their own cost cutting, which will then again affect profitability as well as throughput. On the plus side for Nissan, they are making a lot of changes. They've essentially overhauled their product development cycles. They're trying to get new product to market faster. They're also doing a better job of car flow management, essentially making sure that the right cars go to the right market at the right time. And then they have some tailwinds on the product side. So Nissan has completely missed the hybrid boat. They're finally rectifying that with a hybrid version of their bestseller, the Rogue crossover. So that's going to launch late this year. However, once again, because it's being imported from Japan initially, volumes will be limited this year, and production will begin in the US and ramp up next year. But that's definitely going to deliver a significant amount of volume for Nissan. And then, of course, some of their other models are getting redesigns and facelifts, which we can talk about later, that will also, drive consumer interest.
So dealers seem cautiously optimistic about Nissan's turnaround. What are they most excited about in the product pipeline? And are there still some concerns about execution?
Yeah. So, Nissan dealers, based on my calls with them yesterday, there seems to be a shift in sentiment, from frustration with the brand to more cautious enthusiasm, as Nissan tries to streamline operations, improves the dealer compensation, and most importantly, introduces products that they say will really sell in this market. One of those models that dealers are most excited about is the return of the Xterra SUV. It was an iconic brand that was discontinued, but Nissan's bringing it back in 2028, in the second half of 2028. And dealers, got a preview of the Xterra at the meeting yesterday. One of them described it, as radical looking. It's going to be sort of beefy, full-sized SUV with big tires, a muscular grille. Another dealer said, it still has the DNA of the original Xterra, but it has a modern twist. And he described it as having an aggression to it. I presume talking about the design. This will be electrified, so it'll have a hybrid system, and it's expected to have a V6 engine. But according to a source, Nissan may be considering putting in a V8, which would be interesting. But I suspect V6 is more likely. I guess on a less critical point, the Altima, which is Nissan's midsize sedan, that was supposed to be put to pasture this year, but it looks like they're going to extend the Altima to late summer 2027, and they're going to put marketing support and also pricing support. So this gives dealers, at least one other sedan in the market besides the volume Sentra.
Perfect. Urvash, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for the time.
Coming up next, three-time NASCAR champion Joey Logano talks about why he's entering the dealership business. That's next on Daily Drive.
If you're an automotive supplier and you know your team is building the next big thing, prove it on the industry's biggest innovation stage. Automotive News is now accepting applications for the 2026 PACE program. PACE Awards recognize traditional and non-traditional suppliers worldwide for new product, process, and business model innovation, and entries must be innovations already commercialized through a sale to an automaker. Still pre-commercial but past the pilot stage? PACE Pilot recognizes post-pilot, pre-commercial innovations across automotive and future mobility, products, software, IT systems, and processes with the potential to revolutionize an automaker's business. All submissions are reviewed by an independent panel of judges, and MEMA is the exclusive lead sponsor. Ready to be recognized? Apply by February 9th at autonews.com.
Your dealership is sitting on mountains of customer data. But when that data is messy and spread across different systems, it's almost impossible to actually use. That's why Goobagoo developed Curator, the automotive industry's first unified intelligence engine. Curator pulls customer data from everywhere, your CRM, DMS, website, even your marketing tools. It cleans it, connects it, and pushes it back into your systems. The result is a complete real-time record of every customer. Let's get to know Alan Telleriato. For nearly 50 years, they've built their business on one simple idea: take care of the customers, and they'll keep coming back. But even with decades of loyalty and data, things were getting messy. BDC manager Seth Stanage puts it best. Customers would reference visits from years ago, but the team could only see the most recent record. Finding the full story meant digging through duplicates across multiple systems. That all changed with Curator. Seth says their marketing data is the best it's ever been thanks to Curator, enabling Alan Tillery to target buyers at just the right moment and making sure they're the first and last dealership those shoppers connect with. The results speak for themselves. Curator collected more than 20,000 data points a week and generated leads that boast a nearly 30% closing rate. Want to see what Curator can do for your dealership? Visit goobagoo.com/curator to learn more.
Welcome back to Daily Drive. I'm Kellen Walker. Three-time NASCAR Cup Series champion Joey Logano has a new title, Dealership Partner. The Ford racing legend has partnered with Huntsville Ford in North Carolina, a store he's worked with for years. Our own Michael Martinez sat down with Logano to talk about what drew him to automotive retail, how he plans to balance racing with a new venture, and what he's learned about the business side of selling cars.
Just curious from your own words, why does a three-time NASCAR champion want to get into automotive retail?
Well, I like cars to start with, right? I'm a car guy. Then, since I was a little kid, I've been into unique cars, fast cars, old cars. I enjoy that a lot. And as a race car driver, you're around that a lot as well. And, I've raced for Ford for the last 13, 14 years of my career. So I've created a really good relationship with Ford. Worked a lot with Huntersville Ford as with my hometown area, and worked with Stacy a lot over there. So built a relationship over time. When Stacy brought this up, and I was like, yes, I want to do this. It sounds like fun. I started trying to figure it out, and we connected with Vernon and Zach Krause, and it's been a bit of a process just trying to understand everything. For me, I had to learn a lot, trying to go through the financials and understand, what a dealership's really worth and how the business model actually works. And it's far more complicated than I would have thought going into it. But it's a big business, right? These guys are running real businesses, and they're large. So I took a solid year or so to educate myself, to try to make the right decision. I had some good people around me to help advise me, and then be able to ultimately make the decision to jump as a partner into Huntersville Ford. So I'm looking forward to it. Like I said, a lot to learn, but I also feel like I can bring a lot to the table. As a race car driver, I say this all the time, you have an unfair advantage in business because I'm able to, pretty much connect with about anyone I want to connect with, right? Which is a great tool to have. And if you can use that to grow, your own portfolio, but also, help other businesses get to the next level. That's my goal here, right? And the goal here is to take what Huntersville Ford already is, and the Krause Automotive Group they've grown an incredible business, and try to add a little bit more to it, right? Try to add it. Usually people are stronger together.
So Stacy was telling me a bit yesterday, but would love to hear your perspective. Seems like your relationship with Huntersville Ford goes back a long ways, years, right? Could you talk a bit about that partnership and what you've gone to them for and what you like about the business?
Yeah, I think there's been quite a few unique scenarios where we've worked together in the past. A lot with my studio, Clutch Studios, and TA Films. We were there's many opportunities throughout the time that, hey, we needed to borrow a car, right? And Stacy was always like, yeah, you can borrow this car. A lot of times it was a Mustang, but it was sometimes other things. And Stacy was always quick to help us out, and that's what always kind of built that relationship. is doing those type of things, whether it was the Hot Wheels world record that we set, we needed a Mustang to try to finish off that video, or just random, stuff that we shoot there, right? As a Ford driver, we need Ford vehicles quite a bit. And so that worked out well. And then obviously there's been a lot of car deals in the time, right? Of cars that I've bought and sold and traded and all the stuff that we've done there. So, that's the most important thing about a partnership, is having that trust and taking the time to build that trust, right? It doesn't happen overnight. It doesn't happen over one transaction most of the time, right? It's over years of working together. It's been up to this point, a great partnership, right? So we're just taking it to the next level.
So how would you define your role? It sounds like from everything I've heard, you intend, or you already have and intend moving forward, to be pretty hands-on.
I like to be, there's only a certain amount I can do, right? I still have a day job of driving the race car, and that has to take priority, while I'm driving the car. And I was very clear about that from the get-go, is that, if we don't win on Sundays, it doesn't, my help isn't as much, right? Like my tool and my resource that I'm able to bring to the table is a lot of the, comes from winning on Sundays, right? In the race car. So I told Stacy and everyone there, I said, treat me as like special teams, right? That's what I am, right? I'm not going to go in there and completely change the place and tell everyone how to do everything, but use me as a little bit of fuel that can be on the fire that's already there, right? So whether that's, certain relationships, if it's leveraging my brand somehow, trying to take my 2 cents here and there, like that's kind of where I see myself making an impact quickly, immediately. And then as I dive deeper, I think I'll be more of an asset in some other things. And as my career ends, I would want to be even more involved when I get to that point and have time. But I don't see that in the near future. Don't take that the wrong way. I just, at this point, I want to take advantage of the platform that I have and be able to grow and learn while I'm still racing.
So obviously you have a strong affinity for Ford products and the strong relationship with the Ford brand. Put on the dealer hat for a second, though. Sell the readers who are going to read the story. Why is now a good time to be in the Ford business specifically?
I think you look at their vehicles. That's the number one thing I look at when you're wanting to buy a new vehicle. What do you want? You want something, well, it probably depends on who you are. But if you're asking me as a race car driver, I want something fast. I want something reliable. I want something that's unique, right? And cool, right? Like those are the things to me that are super important. And when you look at the Ford lineup that they have for vehicles right now, I think Jim Farley said this the best a few years ago. No more boring cars, right? Like all their cars are very cool. And even the practical cars are really cool. Right? My wife has an Expedition. We drive that a lot. I got an F-150. I drive that as my everyday driver. Obviously, I'm a Mustang guy. Drive that. I got GTD getting delivered here next week, so I'm excited about that one. So, you look at the whole portfolio of cars that they have now. It's pretty good cars, right? And the Dark Horse SC just being released, that's going to be obviously a win, I think, as well. So they have a good mix of cars that Americans want these days, and so I'm excited about being a part of that family, even more so than I already am. It's been pretty interesting learning from the other side, right? I've been on the Ford racing side for so long, and you only see one part of the business, right? You see the marketing side, you see the racing side, but I've never really seen the money making side, right? Like the selling cars, the important side, so it's been fun to see both ends of that and how everything intermingles.
I'm wondering, without divulging any, state secrets or anything, I'm wondering, you mentioned you've learned a lot in getting to know the retail business. Is there anything in particular you could share that you've been surprised by, whether that's, on the selling cars side or the service side or the F&I office or anything in particular you could point to there?
Yeah, it's still a long ways to go, right? I want to say that first. And Stacy's done a good job at helping educate me. But, mainly just the business model itself, it's very complex because there's so many streams of revenue coming in from different little businesses within the big business, right? If you will. So a lot of different departments. So, it's definitely, different looking at it, from our other businesses where it's a little bit simpler, right? The other things I've been involved with, it's, you don't have, if you look at our studio business, for example, right, there's no, Ford looking over you, right? And being a part of like a bigger picture of things. It's just a small little mom and pop. That's us. This is how we do it. And you move on. The pure size of Ford is one thing, but also just one dealership, right? The size of Huntersville Ford is no small dealership by any means. Just learning the financials of that and understanding where all of it is. That's a long ways to go, but I am definitely picked up on it a lot. Stacy's a wizard with that stuff, is what I figured out. That's his it's his lane. That's where he's deep into the financial statements. But that definitely I look forward to learning that side of it. I'm interested in that, but also just as much in the operations of how it works. I think there's a lot of things from the motorsport side. When you look at how a race team is run. There's a lot of similarities. There's also a lot of differences, but there's a lot of things that can help on both sides. How we execute and how we get things done efficiently in motorsports can be applied into the automotive industry from the dealership perspective.
That's Daily Drive for today. I'm Kellen Walker, coming to you from the NADA show in Las Vegas. Thanks to Automotive News executive producer Jake Neer, as well as our own Urvash Kakaria, Michael Martinez, John Hutter, and Melissa Burden for their reporting for today's podcast. You can get the latest news on dealer profitability, everything happening here at NADA, and everything happening in the auto industry at autonews.com. We'd love to hear from you. Let us know what you think of the show and the topics we covered today. Send us an email at dailydrive@autonews.com or leave us a voicemail at 313-444-2774. And if you enjoy the podcast, remember to like, leave a review, and subscribe so you never miss an episode.